his topic today, but I can guess it will be interested one. So we're waiting for his slide.
So no more? Okay.
Yeah,
And,
but do we have to wait for Dr. Pamod or not? No need, right?
I'm not quite sure. Maybe they are busy, so they forgot. So we can start.
Okay. So please welcome Professor Hsia to give a presentation tonight.
Okay. You know, today actually is not my turn. It's one of the students' turn, because I'm the host people. So have so many newcomers to come. So I have to give some kind of welcome to all these guests, all the people. Maybe in the future we will increase some people from Philippines and Korea and Japan. Okay, we try because at the moment we cannot move anymore. We cannot move to Malaysia. We cannot move to anywhere. So the only thing is watch the falling people from the screen. You know, that is enjoy all international trip. So I said maybe the host people will give some kind of talk at the beginning. So please let me start. Did you see my slide now?
Yes, it's sharing now.
Okay. The first slide, maybe some of my students have been see this PPT already, but why I'm so emphasized on this, because I hope all the students, just like Professor Wantamas and Professor Law, your area is a very wide area. So I hope the students also have a wide area. And once you have a wide area, you always need some kind of basic principle and application in animal production of husbandry. That is why I said maybe we can introduce this to the student. Okay, so actually this presentation have been presented in 2 universities already, in Liang University and in Hsia University. So I'm so eager to introduce this kind of basic principle, because I hope the student not when you study you need to fix on one subject, but your knowledge should have a wide area. Okay, to listening other people's talk, and then you can know what's going on in this world. There are so many basic principles in animal husbandry that can be applied on site. Okay, you can change this word husbandry become animal production. Okay, but we seem to explain many principles and application items separately, so that the trained student tend to memorize by rote rather than logical thinking. And what I mean by rote is mean you only follow this one. Only once, so this principle using for one thing, but I hope you can remember this kind of principle can be used for many things, not only one. For example, ecology. It can be used in the nutrition management, housing design, animal welfare, physiology, and so on. This is a very interesting one. Even you are a nutritionist, you can still working on the behavior observation. I can see Professor Wantamas already started by using the behavioral method to measure the nutrition subject. That is interesting things. Okay, and for example, test the palatability of feed, nutrition imbalance or function or nutrient, etc. Okay, of course they can using for a lot of things. housing design, okay, animal welfare, and etc. You can use this kind of behavior things in all this part. And also because you're using in the behavior, using behavior on the measurement of your subject, you can find at the moment, I dare not to say in the future, but at the moment, you will be easy to accept by the journal because the animal behavior is an interesting part, and very few people using this animal behavior to detect the animal nutrition problem or feeds problem. Okay, for example, one of the students, he's interested on oil, and then you will find that the oil also can influence on the behavior of the animals. And the biochemistry and the management or nutrition or meat quality. This is a very interesting part because I always tell the student the basic principle, the basic two subjects you have to understand. That is biochemistry. And people say, oh no, the biochemistry is too difficult. No, you don't need to remember everything. You remember the basic one, and if you find trouble, and then you just find the textbook, and textbook will tell you what's going on. Okay, and another thing is physiology, biochemistry, and physiology is a basic one. This kind of metabolic pathway seems very, very complicated, but actually it's really very, very simple one. Okay, this is called glycolysis. I think everyone knows that. But interesting enough, they relate with all this kind of practical knowledge. For example, the first one, PSS peaks. If you have stress syndrome, percent stress syndrome peaks, and then you can find this kind of things increase because here is glycogen influenced by the adrenaline, and then they will metabolize. And once they metabolize, and then you will find they will become the lactic acid. Okay, and then they will become lactic acid, and once they become lactic acid, they maybe will cause the stress syndrome appeared more clearly. And then the second one is heat stress. If you have a heat stress, and here it's not influence from the glycogen, it's influence start from the adrenaline, and the adrenaline increase, and then all this kind of metabolic. You don't need to remember all this kind of detail. Okay, this kind of detail just for cheating the other people. Say you have a so-called knowledge. Otherwise, you only need to know this kind of pathway, and then go to become lactic acid. So heat stress will become lower pH, and once you become lower pH, you will produce the PSE, pair soft exudative pulse. Of course, cold stress, transportation stress. If transportation causes stress, it's not only for pigs, but also for chicken, for cattle. And why the cattle is not influenced by this kind of things a lot, you cannot easy to see, is because in the cattle, they have less glycogen. So most of them used for energy source is a VFA. Okay, so they cannot go through this way. Of course, in some stage in here, they still can become the lactic acid. Okay, but in most cases they cannot. And so in this case, their meat still is so-called red meat, so-called red in color. Okay, and the fifth one is you see in the if your environment is too crowded, and for example, too many pigs, too many chickens, too many cattle, and in one pen or in one space, or too many, not only too many animals, one animal have less space, and then you will find they are under stress. And of course, during the slaughter, all the animal need to go through the stern of the electrical shock. And once the stern of electric shock, if you are not doing very well, and then you will find you will interesting the adrenaline secretion. And once the increase adrenaline secretion, and then you will cause PSE meat, or not necessarily PSE. For sheep, goat, maybe become a little bit pale, not really pale, because meat, sheep, goat, and cattle, not easy to produce PSE. Okay, and then the seventh is overfeeding. Once you're overfeeding before transportation and the slot, you also have a higher glycogen. And once you have a higher glycogen, you also will produce a lot of PSE. Okay, and that means you will always cause a lower pH in meat. And if you still don't believe this, you can go home. You can find any kind of meat. Okay, beef, goat, lamb, or pork, or even the chicken meat. And you put a drop of acid, for example, acetic acid or some kind of acid, okay, and put on the meat, and then the meat will immediately become white in color. Okay, and white became white in color is a oxidation situation. So why they will change the color and become so-called PSE? Because once they are become lower pH, and then their meat will become soft. Okay, the meat will become soft, and once it becomes pale and soft, and then you will find they cannot holding the water in the meat, and they cannot holding water in the meat, they will become PSE. Okay, so all this can relate with this, and then you say one principle can using in so many things. In this case, why not just remember this kind of basic principle? You don't need to remember the detail. You need to remember the basic principle is from the glycogen and adrenaline and the lactic acid here. Okay, and then becomes lower pH and the PSE. Another thing is water temperature for the hair is too high. And if you are during the slot and your water temperature is too high, and then you will find this kind of meat also will become PSE. And many of my students told me, say, no, they already died. They have no so they have no adrenaline. They cannot go through like this way. But you have to remember, when we were in junior high school, we always learn once the temperature increase 10 degrees Celsius, and then you will find the chemical reaction will increase one times, is twice increase one times. So in this kind of case, if the temperature is increased, and then the chemical reaction, not metabolical. Once they died, we call the chemical reaction will increase too. Okay, my mother is a chemical chemical engineering. So he told me, say, this is you already learned it when you are in the junior high school. It's not senior high school. In the junior high school, you already learn these kind of things. So this is the temperature of the water. And the carcass are pile up after, all these kind of things. You pile up all the carcass, and then the heat cannot dissipate. Also, you have some kind of freezing. You can using ice or using refrigerate and make this kind of meat decrease the temperature. But because your temperature, your meat is pile up, and once your meat is pile up, and then you will find that one thing is very interesting. That is, your temperature will increase. The meat temperature will increase because tie up. They cannot despite the temperature. So the temperature increase, that means your pH will, your metabolism will increase. Your metabolism will increase, and then your pH will drop. Okay, so this is also if your things is pile up. I saw this in my country in many small slaughterhouse. Okay, they have this kind of problem, and the meat is placed on the mid store for too long. Okay, for example, if you go to the market, you can see they put their meat in the store for too long, and then once they put it too long, and then you will find their temperature will increase, of course, and then the pH will become lower, and once the pH becomes lower, and all your meat qualities will change. And at the moment, you maybe say it's already finished. Not really, because all this kind of metabolism is related with vitamin. And once you have a vitamins problem, and then you will find any kind of vitamin shortage, you will cause this kind of trouble. And why is a vitamin? You can see from the next slide. Okay, glycolysis is under the decomposition of synthesis of other nutrients is require large amount of coenzyme. Remember, coenzyme is equal to vitamin. Remember these words, coenzyme is equal to vitamins. I'm a really lucky man, you know, I'm received one of this kind of information about 50 years ago. Sorry, I'm really too old, okay? And this kind of people give me one of the chart you will see later, and this chart show all this vitamin is coenzyme. Okay, if a large amount of vitamin are consumed, it may lead to the imbalance of vitamin and the minerals. This is a very interesting one. This is a very, very interesting one. I received this information about 48 years ago. 48 years ago. I'm loyalty to one of the people, and they said, do you want this chart? Because nobody wants this chart. I said, I want. You can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 11. This is a vitamin. And you can see here, all this kind of pathway have this number. And then if you are not have this kind of vitamin, and then all these kind of things will go wrong, and then go to some kind of lactic acid, or go to some other place, or even have trouble. Okay, so remember, if you do not have enough this vitamin, and then you will get trouble. And a good example is if you climb the mountain, and before you climb the mountain, you eat the vitamin tablets, especially B group and the E group, vitamin E and a little bit A, and then you will find that your muscle will not become sour. And why your muscle will not become sour? Because your metabolism is smoothly. Your metabolism is smoothly, so you cannot produce too much lactic acid. And once you not produce too much lactic acid, pyruvic acid, and then become lactic acid, okay, in this area. And then you will find your muscle will not become sour. Okay, this is a very simple way to test these kind of things. You don't need any kind of equipment. You can know these kind of things. Okay, so you can see most of this kind of vitamin is water soluble, but still have vitamin E, vitamin K. Okay, these two is a fat soluble vitamin. So remember, if you know all this kind of metabolism, and then you can imagine what will happen. At least you can imagine what will happen. And then the next one is, I think you know these things is very, very well. All these kind of minerals have some kind of interaction with each other. They are interaction with each other really very closely. Okay, and if you are studying this kind of minerals, and then micro minerals, and then you can see which one will cause your trouble. I started from about 49 years ago, when we are started using the iron dextrin for the piglets. And once we're using this, our old people always suggest us, be careful about the zinc, be careful about the iron. Okay, and you can see here, if you are give the injection of the iron, if you give the injected iron, you always will have some kind of interaction with all these kind of things. Okay, so be careful about this kind of interaction. So if you can know these things, that become very good in advance. Okay, but later, nowadays have more this kind of chart come out. It's not only these two, at least 10 different kind of chart. And you can see from here, the minerals is interaction with vitamins. Okay, you can see all this kind of vitamin. Here is vitamin. Okay, here is vitamin, and then here is all the minerals, and then you can find they have a very, very strong interaction. I'm prefer to use interaction, and sometimes people prefer using the ghosts. Okay. Okay. So all these kind of things can happen, and you know this kind of basic principle, then you know a lot of things. You can easily to challenge to the other people. You can easily to measure these kind of things in your thesis or in your experiment or in the practical situation. Another very, very interesting things, at the moment have very little people to do this kind of experiment. That is really interesting things. That is cholesterol. Okay, and we know because cholesterol is a precursor of the following substance: adrenaline, non-adrenaline, estrons, progesterones, testosterone, vitamin D. So if you are under the stress, these two will increase. Adrenaline and non-epinephrine will increase. Okay, non-adrenaline or non-epinephrine, both is okay during the writing. And if they are increased, they will consume your cholesterol. And once the cholesterol go to here, and then the cholesterol will have less go to estrus, progesterone, or testosterone. And then the things will happen. That is your reproduction performance will be lower. Okay, so we have to be very careful. If we have a higher reproduction performance, we maybe have a less opportunity or ability to dealing with stress. Okay, and another thing is, if we're using too much here, and then we have less chance to synthetic become the vitamin D. At the moment, the vitamin D is not only for bones purpose, not only for bone or teeth purpose, but also for immunology. It's good for immunology. So why not let us understand this? And another interesting things, if you are in the research work, is on the aqua this kind of animal. For example, shrimp is a very interesting one. Okay, crab is another interesting one. Okay, all these kind of things they need to get rid of their shell in a certain time, and then they can close. If they cannot get rid of their shell, and then they will get trouble. When I know this kind of thing is so serious, many years ago, I working on the snake. Okay, many people tell me the snake certainly died because they cannot get rid of their skin. And then the people said, why cannot get rid of their skin and then have this kind of problem? So many people think that is cheating. Cheating is a major factors to influence on their skins. Can we say de-skin? Get rid of our skin. But that is not true. The major function is cholesterol. Okay, if you can add the cholesterol and then they are get rid of our skin and become mature again. Every while they need to get rid of our skin and then they become mature and become big and big. So why not? Why not use this kind of cholesterol provided for this kind of aqua animal? Okay, this is very important because when I'm working on the aqua animal, and the people always suggest me, say, which kind of things you need to provide to the aqua animal? I say, egg yolks. And he said, yeah, egg yolks, that is a very expensive one. I said, no, because at the moment, at least in European country, in America, and in Taiwan, we cannot using broken eggs. And we cannot using broken eggs for human consumption. So we have to using this kind of broken eggs. And I saw this kind of things about 30 years ago in America. And they are soak all these kind of broken eggs to one place. I say, ask them, what are you using for? They said two purposes. One is for dog nutrition, dog's food. Another one is for seafood, especially for shrimp, crabs, etc. Okay, so you can see just one basic principle, that is mean cholesterol. Okay, that is why nowadays everyone say cholesterol is important. Cholesterol is not the bad things. Yes, too much cholesterol for the older people like me maybe is very bad, but usually cholesterol is really very important because you can anti-stress, you can have a more sexual behavior. You can see most of the monks, they do not eat the meat. That is why they can so-called, they have a very clear mind. And why they have a clear mind is because they have no this kind of sexual hormone. Okay, so in this case, we know this kind of things is because of cholesterol. Be careful. People say that people for monk, they can have a lower cholesterol, they can survive, but don't forget, they also have cancer. They also have a lot of disease. But don't forget one thing, the vitamin D nowadays becomes very famous one. They are not only for bones synthesis, but also for increase your immunity. Okay, increase your immunity, you can against all this kind of disease problem. So be careful. You can use just one basic principle. You can use it to a lot of place. Cause a loss of protein under the urgent circumstance, which may lead to insufficiencies of non-primary, non-essential. Should not use in primary. Okay, non-essential amino acid. Today, the essential amino acid is become very important. Okay, many people say that amino acid is no essential amino acid is not important, but you can see this is called basic Barlow principle. Barlow principle is said if you shortage of one of the amino acid, and then the protein cannot synthesis. But today is primary. I should say not using primary, non-essential amino acid, and then you will find the whole things. The ideal protein in the future should be include the non-essential amino acid. For example, today have a lot of amino acid is mentioned in the research area. Okay, you can see a lot of this kind of non-essential amino acid, because if you are too low about the protein, and why too low? Because we try to reduce environment contamination, and once we have too many nitrogen metabolism, and then you will find you will contaminate the environment. So they reduce protein content in the diet, and once they reduce the protein content in the diet, you have to be very careful about the non-essential amino acid, because it's no enough nitrogen synthesis become non-essential amino acid. So this is also another thing, because you know the ideal protein this principle is developed in 1980. Okay, 3% became very important in the whole world. The one is called Yan Hongda, and another one is called Wang Dezhong, and another one is Zhong Daoqiang. These 3%, the supervisor is called Fuller and Day. And after then, these 3%, you will certainly find the ideal proteins. This kind of principle is not mentioned by many people, at least from 1990. But no, 1993 or 94. After that, you cannot find these kind of things. Okay, but the people start to working on the function amino acid. the function peptide, and the function protein. And then today it's not only working on the function amino acid, but also working on the non-essential amino acid and the antagonistic, and also the interaction of the amino acid with any other things. Why is local chicken or black pork? This is another basic principle. Everyone says the local chicken or black pork is delicious. Why? That is not, must be have something hiding inside. But since I know this kind of basic principle, I think it's easy, very easy for us. Even the European pigs, European chickens, the modern chickens, modern pigs, or modern cattle, you can let their taste very delicious. And how to make them delicious? This is a basic principle. Another will have different growth characteristics at a different growth stage. For example, this is a very interesting one. The first stage, the second stage, and the third stage, and the fourth stage. I really appreciate Dr. Tobers and Dr. Marbers give us this kind of lecture about 25 to 30 years ago. And they give us this kind of lecture, and then we immediately can imagine all this kind of chicken meat, why they are tasteful. It's because this basic principle. The phase one, their growth is organ growth, bone growth, muscle a little bit, is rapid growth, but it's a little bit. And the fat growth is very slow at the first stage. And then the second stage, organs approaching maturity at the phase. And then the muscle growth became very rapid, and the bone growth became too slow. And then the growth, the fat growth increase a little bit. Okay? And then important is go to the third stage. The organs reach maturity. The bones growth is nearly complete. And the nearly complete, remember these words, and the muscle growth is slowing down now. And the major weight gain is fat, just like me. At the moment, my gain is most coming from fat. So I became fat belly, and the body weight increase, and cannot just eat a little bit and then still increase the body weight. That's increase the fat. But always remember, increase fat. Usually your body look like a fat, but your body weight not increase too much. Okay, so this is a very important things. And the fourth stage is muscle growth stop. Almost, you should not say stops. It's almost stop. And the most weight gain is fat deposition. Okay. Last 2 to 3 years, I heard a lot of old men, because I'm an old man now, and I heard a lot of old men mention about the weak muscle syndrome. Okay, the weak muscle syndrome is very, very terrible things, because once you have this kind of weak muscle syndrome, and that is mean your muscle goes down. Okay, if you do not make exercise, you will find that your leg, especially the small leg, that part will become very thin, and in the final stage you will find you cannot stand up, and you will have big trouble. Okay, that is why many people are sick. They are lie down on the bed. You need to ask them at least to stand up and walk for a while. Okay, this is a fourth stage. They are mainly growth of the fat. But here he didn't mention another word. This word is very, very important. That means they will increase the intramuscular fat. Remember these words, intramuscular fat. Some people say intermuscular fat, but some people say intramuscular fat. Doesn't matter. I don't want involved in this kind of argument. But I will say the intramuscular fat will increase. And once the intramuscular fat increase, you will become marbling. Okay? The first one is the meat will become marbling, and then the value will increase. And the taste will be good. This is the second one. Okay? Because your fat cell will become big. If in this stage you strict their feed, the cell size will become small, And once the cell size becomes small, and you are eating this fat, will become eating something like a fiber. Okay, not a really good taste. And the last one is even important, because during this stage the fat is developed, and the fat developed usually is from the saturated or unsaturated fat, and then the final one will become aromatical fat. And once become aromatical fat, your chicken meat or your beef meat, your cattle pork meat will become flavor, have a very good flavor. Okay, so this is a very important fourth stage. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so if you can raise your chicken a little bit longer, not too long, and then your meat will become very tough. And once it become tough, you cannot chewing it. And especially for the older people, your teeth is already weak, and then you chewing this kind of meat, you will lose your teeth. So this is a very interesting part. To reach about the sixth stage, and your meat will be good enough. But my people, butcher, will tell you, say, no, we can selling this part of meat, and we can get a very good price. And I said, yes, I know your method. How to make this kind of meat is very tough meat. How to make them taste easy. This is also the basic principle. That is, you're using the chop this kind of meat, and then there are C line on the muscle have a C line. This kind of C line will become very strong, connected together once the age is become old enough. But if you broken them, and then the meat become soft again and very easy to chewing. That is why in Taiwan and in Brazil and in many countries, your curd sow, usually the price is very, very low. Okay, the curd sow, usually the price only 3,000, for example, in Taiwan, 3,000 NT dollars or 2,000 NT dollars. But now, a curd sow, the price is about 10,000, 12,000, even higher price for this kind of curd sow. Why? Because they sell this kind of meat, but they chop this kind of meat, and let the Z line is broken. Okay, so you can see, if you know all these kind of things, you will not become a professor. Okay, in professor in Taiwan, we call it 教授. 教授is mean shouting beast, you know. You only know shouting. And if you know how to dealing with these things, how to produce this kind of meat, and how to produce this kind of flavor meat, how to produce this kind of marbling, and they will not say you are a shouting beast. Okay, so this is a very important things. Very important. Please, all the academical people like us, we have to be careful about these things. The ambient temperature. The ambient temperature is the basic principle. This is a beautiful one, but the basic principle, I only want to explain the basic principle. This is a low critical temperature, the black line, and this is a high critical temperature. Okay, this two temperature difference is not so big. Usually should be very narrow, but it also can be big. Okay, so this is a low, this is a high critical temperature. But that is not true. That is not really true, because if you provide feed, okay, for the animal, you provide the feed for the animal, then you will find this kind of thermoneutral zone will to this two line, will drop to this two line. Why? Because if you provide them enough food, and then they can burning all this kind of food become energy. Burning this energy become heat. Heat production will increase. So they can tolerate the cold, a little bit of cold. So once they become a little bit cold, so their thermoneutral zone will be changed to this zone area. But when the temperature is very high, you reduce your food intake. And once you reduce your food intake, and you can, because you are reduce the heat increment. And once you reduce your heat increment, your this kind of thermoneutral zone will move to high temperature, because they can tolerate the high temperature. So the basic principle is there, okay? But you don't size why in many cases people tell me say what is the optimum temperature? I only can tell you say some neutral zone, or this is some neutral zone, or this is some neutral zone. Good example is if in your country have this kind of avian influenza, avian influenza. If in the winter time, if you provide enough food for the chicken, and you will find they are get this kind of avian influenza will be lower percentage. And if you provide them very little about the food, you still thinking they shouldn't eat less because you worried them grows too fast. And then you will find they will become very sensitive to the avian influenza. Why? Because another basic principle that is lower temperature will increase your pH in the blood. Okay, this one I will explain in the future. So in this case, and you are very easy to get the disease. Okay, so affect the temperature, ambient temperature on the chicken. You can find at least more than 10 different kind of things. High temperature is also more than 10 things. And why I list all these kind of things for pigs or for chickens is because the basic principle is totally the same. Basic principle, for example, under the high environment temperature, gilt are delayed to become puberty. And then you will find the chicken is also will have a lower fertilization rate. Okay, and all these kind of things, it's almost the same. So if you know one principle, you can imagine what will happen for the rest part of the situation. Okay, this is a very interesting thing. I suggest you not only study in your own subject, but once you become a master degree or PhD student, please concentrate on your subject. The other things you learn from other people, like your professor or the other professor or the other student, try to listening this kind of seminar. And you don't need to read it, but you remember what people are talking about. You can record all these kind of things. Okay, and then when you go home, you maybe, what I mean go home is not go back to your own country, go to any place, and then you can correct the information, and then you can talk into the other people, academical people, or farmers people, or the government people, and tell them all these kind of things. Okay, unfortunately, in the Eastern society, I mean Asia area, most of the government people think they are more knowledge than the professor or than the people. It's because they don't read the papers. Okay, you don't need to mind about this. You just tell them, and then say that is my own opinion. That's all. Okay. Heat increment. This is I measured many years ago. At that time, I have no calorimetry chamber, so I measured the heat increment. How do I measure the heat increment? I give the animal fiber and no fiber food or fat food. Okay, this is a fat food. This is a fiber food, and after we provide them this food, and you can see even before that. So if you provide them higher fiber food, bran, for example, bran, and then you will find their body temperature, their skin temperature, not body temperature, their skin temperature will increase. Why measure the skin temperature, not measure the body temperature? This is another principle. Okay, because body temperature we usually is keep very constant, but the skin temperature is seriously influenced by the environmental temperature. Okay, I'm involved in the environment temperature for last 50 years. I never stopped this part of research, and I found this is an interesting part. If you provide them this kind of fiber things, and then you will find they have a higher body temperature, skin temperature, And if you provide them fat, they will have a lower skin temperature. And why? It's because fat have a lowest heat increment. Because fat is very easy to digest, so produce less heat increment. But the fiber is they produce lots of heat increment, so their body temperature will increase. So this is a very, this is 1984. Okay, myself and Lu is another. Now he's also retired. He's a mid-science people at the before he retired. So this is a very interesting thing. You can using all this kind of knowledge as you want. Okay, and ambient temperature and the livestock housing. The higher the temperature, the higher the saturated water content per unit of volume. Sorry, this word saturated is not the good words. We should say the higher the temperature, they can have higher moisture content per unit of volume. This is a very important thing. Lower temperature and heavy air, and then you will find also have this kind of chimney effect. How to explain this? I will explain later. The more extract of the airflow, the more extract the airflow, the fast inhale. That means you extract the air out, and then the inlet of the air will very fast to go in. Remember, always using negative way to let your ventilation system going on. Otherwise, you will find very difficult. You push the air in. You're using the fan to push the air in. You always get not very successful this kind of result, good results. Okay, the same thing happens in the air and the water. Always remember you extract the water out. Okay, and then the water will automatically come in because the pipe will become semi-vacuum. Once it becomes semi-vacuum, they will suckling the water go into the pipe. The same thing happens in the air. Okay, interesting enough, the same thing happens in the knowledge. If you can go, you can give the farmer knowledge. You don't try to jealous the farmer will become better than you. Farmer always believe if you're talking to them and then they learn, they will as good as you. That's not true. If you give them a lot of knowledge and you still learn a lot of knowledge, and then you will always better than them. Otherwise, one day you will find you just like them. Okay, so more extract, and if you have faster inhale or faster go something knowledge to go inside, and then you will be as good as you before. You don't really need to worry about the people learn your knowledge. The air needed to be deferred. This is not good words. Okay, ambient temperature and nutrition and feed. This is a very important things. Ambient temperature and heat dissipation. During the high environment temperature, you need despite the heat. Anyway, you need despite the heat. Remember one word. Despite the heat, you need energy. That is why under the heat stress situation, your heat production still higher than thermal neutral zone. Why? Because you need despite this kind of heat. Okay, energy metabolism and the heat dissipation. You can see the energy despite the heat, so you still need a little bit of energy. Remember, under the heat stress situation, you should not increase too much energy. You should not increase too much metabolic energy, digestible energy, or net energy. Why? Because you add too much, then they will decrease your food intake. But you need increase a little bit. Our experiments show if you increase about 2.5 to 5% of the energy, and then you will find you will improve your performance. But if you increase to about 10%, of the energy, and then you will find your performance will be lower. And why? Because if you increase the energy source by 10%, and then your total food intake will decrease at least more than 20%. Okay, so be careful about all these kind of things. This part I will try to find another opportunity to discuss with everyone. And another thing is feed processing. Don't believe too much about the other people said. Some people said feed processing will cause some kind of damage of the nutrient. Yes, sometimes, but not always. Okay. For example, the more water add, the higher the feed cost. Any kind of feed, if you add the more water, and then you will find the cost of the feed is higher. Good example is if you have a fermented feed. Okay, and this kind of fermented feed is very, very popular in Asia area, especially in Taiwan and China. Okay, and people are selling this kind of fermented feed because they believe the fermented feed will be can destroy some kind of anti-nutrition factors. Sorry, anti-allergy factors. But I will explain later. And then you will find after during the fermentation, you need to add water in. You need to add water, otherwise they cannot become fermented. Okay. Once you add the water in, and then you already success in 1 day or 2 days. Usually should be 1 day, but 1 day sometimes cannot be get a very good result. Okay, and 1 day you get one of the terrible results. That is, your feed is have at least 30 to 40% of the water content. And in this kind of situation, we call this kind of fermentation called dry solid fermentation. Okay, and for example, all tech company using this method. But don't forget, once you're using this method, they still contain about 30 to 40% of water. You have to dry them, otherwise they will become mold. And once they become mold, this feed is terrible things. So how to let them dry? Dry becomes a very costly things. Anything, if you want them dry, is very costly things. But if you're using extruder, my goodness, extruder only once, you destroy all these kind of allergy factors. Okay, anti-nutrition factors is easy, very easy to destroy, but the allergy factor is not easy. Okay, you will see later. And then, if you're using this, my goodness, you destroy this kind of allergy factors in a very short time, and then, my goodness, you don't need to dry them. Your feeds can last for very long because extruder make your feeds much more dry. Okay, so remember these kind of things. Don't just follow the other people said from fermentation. And this is our extruder machine in our university. Okay, and this machine is some people send it to me, and they said, do you want using this extruder machine to make extruder pieces? And at that time I say yes. But when I received this, I started to do a lot of experiment on the extrusion on the feeds, and we get a very interesting results. This is the extrusion soybean. Okay, and once they become such kind of extrusion soybean, and you of course you will find their cell membrane. Sorry, should not say cell membrane. Their cell wall will destroyed, and once their cell wall is destroyed, can you imagine? In a very short time, you can destroy their cell wall, and their nutrient can be digested by the chicken or by the pigs or by some other animals are more easy, far more easy than not broken this kind of cell wall, especially for the monogastric animal. But in some case, you also can produce some kind of so-called bypass protein, okay, for ruminant animal. You can see this kind of things. Once they give you pressure, and once you give you pressure, and your bulb will increase. And when your bulb is increased, and then finally the bulb is broken. Okay, and once the bulb is broken, and that is mean the cell wall is broken, and the cell content is come out, and so you are becoming easy to digest this kind of thing inside our cell wall, inside our cell. I should not say cell wall, inside our cell, and then you also destroy this kind of allergy factor. How to destroy this kind of allergy factor? Okay, it has been ability to remove anti-nutrition factor. That is easy. Okay, that is easy. But reduce allergy problem, allergy factor is not easy. Extrusion process, anti-nutrition factor, reduce allergy protein, reduce the number of bacteria and the mold. And my goodness, some people's results show reduce some kind of mycotoxin. Okay, I'm not 100% believe this last part, but the first three I 100% believe, but the last part we can see from the research. This is humanizing. If you have go through this kind of extrusion, okay, and then you will find extrude. The last one extrude, and once they will extrude with glucose, and then they will become minor reaction, 梅纳反应 in Chinese said 梅纳反应, and then all this kind of contamination things will destroy. Not 100%, but compared with this original one, it's far more better. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Extrusion with sugar at this kind of 140, and then you can get all this kind of good results. Okay, and we will discuss this in the future. Another thing is if you add something inside of this kind of diets, and you also reduce the allergy substance. Okay, and why? And this is experiment result. Okay, and why? You can see from here. Okay, we can see this kind of alpha globulin, okay, and also this kind of globulin, and all these kind of things here. You can see after extrusion, they already extrusion here, okay, and they already destroyed all these kind of things. Okay, so this is a very interesting one. Sorry, not globulin, it's a glycine. Okay, here I have something wrong. Glycine and co-glycine, and the glycine and co-glycine, they are really allergy, very serious allergy factor. How they will influence on the animals? You can see from the next few slides. You will see usually the allergy factor is existing in this kind of sulfur binding, this kind of chain. Okay, it's from the cysteine or cysteine. Okay, and both from these two things, and then you will find they will just like this. You find the two cysteine, they will link together, and it's from, we said before, from cysteine or cysteine, and two things like this and two things like this. This is the extra cysteine. And when you are push these things, and here we're broken, and here we're broken, and here is broken, and then they will move to here, and then this area will become very big. Why I show you this picture is because you know this kind of things by yourself. When you make Chinese bread, or you make wisdom type of bread, and you will find the bread origin only using a little bit of flour, and then this kind of bread will become big in size. Why? Because they increase this size. Okay, they push this one and then increase this size. And once they increase this size, and then this bread will become big in size. Okay, I saw the real situation in Canada. Okay, so please don't tell me that it's impossible. Okay, and then you can see this one is broken, and then this one will move to here, and once they move to here, this area is become big, and once this area is become big, this is make a bread. The bread principle is the same, totally 100% the same as soybean. Okay, and this place, if the CO2 will go inside here, and then this bread will become big. Why is it CO2? Because we always add NaHCO3 in the bread. We always using yeast to into the bread to make a good bread, because yeast can produce a lot of CO2, and NaHCO3 also can produce a lot of CO2, and this CO2 makes this space become big one. Okay, sorry say that. I know this principle from one of the famous Chinese academical people, okay, in United States, and he also is academical people in our country. But I still doubt. Are you sure? Are you really sure? And then that day I visited the Wheat Research Institute in Canada, and when I saw this one, I'm so excited. I immediately said, "Can I take a photo?" He said yes, and he asked me why I'm so excited. I asked him, say, why some bread is so big and why some bread is so small? Okay, so small. He said, it's because this kind of small one is less of allergic factors, and this big one have higher allergic factors. And the people usually not react to the allergic factor of the bread. But at least I have two friends. They have this kind of very serious problem, allergic to the wheat. This is a wheat. And the wheat, the same thing, this allergic factor is the same thing we call the sulfate chain. Okay, they will cause this kind of trouble. So you let them become a big one, because I show you that before, that kind of space is increased. So the bread becomes a big one. Okay. Then the next one, my student forgive me. This is, I've already mentioned yesterday, the day before, last weekend, is the course about the nitrogen metabolism of the ruminant nutrition. My goodness, this kind of basic principle, only one principle, you can understand the nitrogen metabolism totally. Okay, very easily to understand this. Okay, from the protein, from the NPN, and from why this kind of amino acid will go into the saliva. Sorry, say that when I was a student, when I was a student in Aberdeen University, and the Aberdeen University always tell us, say, when you eat a lot of this kind of NPN or something high protein, and you will increase your saliva's this kind of urea or something like that. And I always a little bit of curiosity, why this kind of things will come in. And if you go through this basic principle, sorry, this one need to explain a little bit longer, so I'm not explaining at the moment. And then you will find that it's just so simple about this kind of things to explain more clearly. So I hope you can understand one basic principle, and then you can know almost everything. Here is everything is the lumen protein or bypass protein or NPN or this kind of things. Okay, and why they will cause this trouble, and then you can know from this chart only one thing. Within inside here is inside of lumen, and inside here is inside of the blood vein. Okay, so remember, always try to remember all these kind of things. And the last few parts you have to understand is you are working in the animal industry. You have to know that things infection. Okay, disinfection procedure, when you have no pig, you remove the dust and wash with clean water. This is easy. And then using alkaline water or spring for 1.5 hours. Why only 1.5 hours? Originally said 2 hours, but nowadays we have to finish within 1 hour to 1.5 hours because the alkaline water will destroy the ion, will destroy the cast ion. Okay, so we better to let them go fast and then wash with clean water and dry or semi-dry and then spray the disinfectant. And what kind of disinfectant we should use in here, I will show you later. That is very, very important. Don't 100% believe some people exaggerate because disinfectant is really very easy to understand. Okay, so we animal production people, we have to understand this. So disinfect it again. 7 days later, we disinfect it again. And then let them dry. And the dry became very important. Okay, always remember, make things dry. That is one of the way to kill the bacteria. Make things dry is one of the way to keep the bacteria. They will become some kind of bird, but to be honest, I say they cannot develop if no water exists. Okay, so you can see all this kind of method. If I have pigs inside, if I have pig inside or chicken inside, no matter it's pig or chicken or cattle or sheep, goat, you can see you clean water spray the sprays. Okay, why the clean water spray? It's not let them become wet. It's a spray on the air, and then the water will drop down all this kind of dust. And the dust I learned about 40, 80 years ago from the North European people. They are doing some very, very clever experiment. They found the bacteria and the fungus and also virus will appear on the dust. Okay, another thing is very important. The smell will appear on the dust too. So why not spring the clean water only on the air and bring all this kind of dust down? And once they down to the ground, and then you spray this kind of disinfectant. And why doing like this way? Don't forget, if you have animal inside, if you spray any kind of disinfectant, that will hurt the animal and the human's lung. Okay, who told me this? The first one told me, the first person told me this is my mother. When I'm doing this kind of job, I told my mother, and my mother said, please wear your mask. I said, why? That is 50 years ago. Please wear your mask. He said, this kind of, any kind of, this kind of disinfectant will hurt your lung. Okay, I did one experiment. I using all these kind of things, and then I make a electronical microscope to examine the lung of the animal, and I found the inside have a lot of small white spots. Okay, so that means this kind of disinfectant will hurt your lung. Okay, in the future, if you really need to disinfectant, remember, ask your enemy to do this, and let him do inside. Don't tell him to wear a mask. Sorry, it's just joke. Don't think it's too. Think I'm so bad man. But remember, please be careful about this. Okay. And another thing is, from here we learn another very important knowledge. That is, smell, the odor is also appeared on the dust. Once the smell is appeared on the dust, if you can get rid of more dust, and then the smell will not influence on your neighbors. That is really important one. Okay, where the pad and the forced ventilation system, everyone said that is expensive one. Don't say that, because that can stop the smell to go to your neighbor, and you also can stop the dust go outside. We can let you know the method in the future. Okay, so this is a very important one. And then this is a very, very interesting part. I really thanks to Dr. Tsai, Professor Tsai, Tsai Xingxiong, Tsai, Professor Tsai, and he showed us this picture. This picture is to say we have a positive thought, and we have alkali, for example, NaOH, and also this kind of carbonic acid. Okay, halogen is one kind of F Cl iodine 溴Br. Okay, this kind of things is very interesting one. And then the aldehyde. Okay, and then this one called the synthetic petrovic acid. And you can see positive is mean they are affect to the envelope with envelopes virus, no envelopes virus, and so the bacteria is also have envelope and no envelope. And if you have a negative, there is no effect. You spray this kind of things, is no effect at all. Okay, you can see alkaline have always positive, but alkaline have very, very bad things. That is, he can destroy the many things. Your clothes, your pigs, your chickens, your everything, they will destroy. So if you have no animal inside, you can use the alkaline. And another one is the carbonic acid. Carbonic acid in some non-envelope, this kind of virus, they have no effect at all. And with envelope bacteria is not also no effect. Halogen, okay, all these kind of things, they have effect. With aldehyde, they also have in this with envelope bacteria is no effect at all. And with this one, in the commercial we call the vehicles weaker. Okay, you have a positive one. But in this case, you can find alkaline. We cannot using alkaline. We cannot using at all because if with animal inside. Okay, and with halogen, yes, we can use it, but be careful. Except one, okay, 四氯酸, and except this one, the rest part have very heard about the animal. For example, if you're using iodine for animal, for human being, and you will find very terrible hurt, painful. Okay, so this is have another disadvantage. And this one, at the moment, is have a very their sales performance is very good. Okay, it's not only one company. This company origin is in British, and but now have China developed a lot of company to produce these kind of things. So you can see, you need to know something. What is mean envelope? What is mean non-envelope? And what is mean envelope with bacteria? And what is non-envelope? This is only one basic principle, and then you can use in all these kind of things. And in the future, if you met any kind of this thing, you need to know whether they have envelope or non-envelope. Okay, for bacteria or for virus. And another interesting thing is, of course, you need to pass through the veterinarian training course for your veterinarian qualify. Okay, but you have to know these things. If you are animal production people, you have to know which kind of drug is for mycoplasma, and another one is gram positive and grams negative. And if you're using tylamotilin, and you can see they are very good on this too, but not really good on this one. Okay, and my colleague is lincomycin, and you will find usually is lincospectin. Otherwise, the gram negative is not so effective. Tetracycline always have good effect. Remember, here we mean this kind of drug is not for feed additive. In Taiwan, this kind of drug cannot be using in feed additive at all. is prohibited, but still can be using for cure purpose. Okay, and TS is also have some kind of negative one, not good for mycoplasma, and you will find many disease, especially the lung disease, respiratory disease related with mycoplasma. Okay, fluorophenical is also not good for the mycoplasma. Okay, quinolones, and it can be kill all these kind of things. Okay, amoxicillin also be careful. Amoxicillin is not good for kill the mycoplasma. So you can see, if you know this kind of basic principle, only one thing, that is mycoplasma, gram negative, gram positive, and then you just try to understand these things. Remember, you don't need to memory all these kind of things. You need to find your chart, this kind of table in somewhere, and when you want, you can use it. And people say, you don't know everything. Don't mind, never mind, because those people, if he remember too many things, and sometimes he will forget all. Okay, we can remember in our own database. Okay, that is good. Major pig disease includes African swine fever, Porcine, PED, or HG, or foot-and-mouth disease, or PERS, okay, or pseudo-rabies, and this kind of six kind, all of them can be killed by the, I mentioned about two kinds of disinfectant. One kind is halogen, and another kind is weak, this part. There seems to have 6 diseases, but the interesting is in common. They are all virus, except the foot-and-mouth disease. Foot-and-mouth disease is interesting enough. They are all, except the foot-and-mouth disease. All this kind of virus disease is enveloped virus. Okay, so if you are from the Malaysia, you always will be more easy to dealing with this kind of disease, because you can suggest people to eat the medium chain fatty acid. Okay, once you eat the medium chain fatty acid, you can using disinfectant that is can kill all this kind of virus, disinfectant. And then one is from outside, one is from inside. And if you can keep all things clean, and then you are not easy to get all this kind of disease. And keep clean is not easy, because you need not only keep clean, but always keep not too cold or too hot. Okay, and then the bacteria cannot easy to develop. Okay, so all these kind of things is just one basic principle. Chicken house clean and disinfection. You can see this kind of thing. They are disinfected by this kind of way. But always remember, even you're using what I suggest the way to do it, you still need to wear your mask. Okay, try to protect yourself. Okay, remember, COVID virus. Since the COVID virus, we always believe one thing, that is you need to wear a mask. That is very important things. Okay, pig house cleaning is the same. Okay, and nowadays have another kind of disinfectant. They are well appeared. Okay, this kind of disinfectants, they were appeared on the wall. Okay, after they appeared on the wall for a while, and then you're using another clean water to clean out. Okay, because why they say that you should appear? Because if you're using the not appeared this kind of disinfectant, they usually will drop down. Okay, and if drop down, and then they will lose their ability to kill this kind of bacteria or virus. I should not say kill the virus, because virus is not an animal. It's not the living things. Okay, virus is just, in our teacher said, is just one of the molecular things. Internal prevention. For example, you can increase your immunity. For example, if you try to increase your immunity, you can use medium chain fatty acids. You can increase your vitamin E and selenium, and all these kind of things can increase your internal immunity, and then you can increase your internal prevention. Okay, and also remember one thing: nothing can have a good result 100%. No anything can make 100% guarantee say you will not get any disease, because you still may bring a lot of bacteria or virus into your animal house. So biosecurity is one of them, one of the way to do it. And don't believe 100% biosecurity can stop all the disease. This time the African swine fever, you can see from in the China, and you will find that they cannot stop, even they have a very good this kind of biosecurity system, because all these kind of things still can go inside if you are not follow this kind of rule. If you are, for example, if you eat the swine African ASF, African swine fever, this kind of meat, and then maybe you will discharge in your own toilet, and then this also maybe will influence on your farms, because maybe it's a rats, or maybe it's a mosquito, or maybe some other things will transfer this kind of disease into your animal. So be careful. It's not to say 100%, but it can reduce this kind of possibility. Okay. I said before, I am a crazy man. Okay. When I'm talking, I becomes exciting. And now it's finished. Any question, comments, or suggestion? Most of the people is falling asleep. Is that right? Okay. I transfer this to Wantamas, Jantasin.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hsia. Any questions or comments from the audience?
In Aberdeen University, we always say, do you have any question, comments, or suggestion? Our teacher always says that every time at the beginning, I don't know these 3 words, My English is very, very poor at that time. And
Okay,
now I
have question now from council. I'm not sure I'm pronounced correct. Yes, please.
I would like to talk to the professor about his presentation. I would like to talk to him on something other than the presentation, but I arrived late, and I am impressed with the information that was disseminated. Because I am interested in animal science, and I would like to talk to the professor one-on-one to discuss some issues. Probably after everybody has made their questions.
Okay, after the seminar.
Yes.
Okay. I'm so exciting, but nobody became exciting too. Okay, please. Don't let.
Johanna, we couldn't hear your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay now.
Oh, right.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
All right. I said I really want to appreciate Prof for a wonderful presentation. I have learned quite a lot. some of the principles that Prof shared with us today. I remember I learned some during my undergraduate, but I got better understanding today. And I want to say, Prof, thank you. It's quite inspiring, and really, I've really learned a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You want me to cry? Any question or comments or suggestion?
Chapua.
是
Excuse me. Can you stop sharing this slide?
try.
Yeah, stop sharing.
I thought you say it's fly. I say.
No, I mean, can you please?
I have fly.
Can you please stop sharing this slide, please?
Okay.我不知道怎么开了，停止显示。然后呢
Arrow. Oh, okay now.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay,
And
I have question.
Okay.
Like, because for the pig farm nowadays we tend to use the disinfect a lot. So for the farmer, what type of the disinfectant that you suggest us to use?
Only two. I should say only three. But this is, if you have pig inside, you can only have two. If you have no pig inside, you have three. Three one is acrylic. Acrylic is you have no animal inside, you can use acrylic. But you're using acrylic only for 1.5 hours. You need to clean out immediately. Otherwise, he will destroy your iron, concrete floor, all these kind of things. This is a quite good disinfectant in when we were using in the animal farm. And in Taiwan, I will tell you, 100% people, if you have one batch of animal out, and then we immediately using the alkaline. Okay, if the animal inside, you cannot use it at all because he will hurt your animal. And then another one is halogen. Okay, halogen is F, fluorine, chloride, Br, and also the iodine. This group of the disinfectant can kill all these kind of bad things, includes virus and bacteria. But most of them have some kind of sting effect. That means will hurt the animal, become very terrible hurt, especially for eyes. If you have eyes problem, if you have if you open the eyes and then you will hurt your eyes. But only one thing, they can kill all things. This one is called the chemical name is called synthetic peroxide acid. But in the commercial name, this is a very famous one. It's called Ficons. So you can using these things like only can use these three things, because only these three things they can kill virus and bacteria, The rest they can occasional, some they cannot kill. For example, this one is phenol group. They can kill both this part. And once you cannot kill this, sorry, maybe sometimes by chance you get this kind of bacteria or virus, and then you will get big trouble.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, please answer.
Thank you, Ned. Dr. Hsia, you mentioned before about the extrusion processing. It can reduce the allergic protein. So in these cases, what do you really mean by allergic protein? I mean, because
Okay, allergic protein actually in the okay, I better to show you this. Allergic protein is we call this kind of sulfate, double sulfate bond. Okay, sulfate bond. This is a sulfate bond, and this sulfate bond always cause allergic factors, no matter is what kind of sulfate bond. Okay, so if you can broken this sulfate bond, and then you destroy the allergy factors. Even fermentation, say using fermentation method, for example, using some probiotic or some kind of microorganism to destroy it in the fermentation situation, they also try to destroy it here. And why I prefer this method, I tell you before, because this method don't need water, so they don't need to dry again. And if you need to dry again, you will increase your cost. This is the first one. The second one is even interesting, because if you destroy this one, you can using pressure and also temperature, and then immediately in a very short time you destroy this one, and then you can destroy the allergy factors. But in fermentation method, you are not easy, because fermentation method, this bacteria need time to destroy this kind of bond. Okay, this kind of sulfate bond, and if you cannot destroy, and then you'll get trouble. Another thing is, if your particle size is big enough, how can you using fermentation method or microorganism or probiotic to go inside of the of this ingredient? For example, soybean. How can you go inside of the soybean? But this kind of extrusion method, they can broken your cell wall totally. Okay, so they go inside of your deep part, and then you destroy all these kind of allergy factors. Did I interest very clearly about this?
yes, Dr. Hsia.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Norita, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor. I'm curious about the PSE. You mentioned about the pale color of the meat. Is there any possible way or method if the animal is getting stressed and it might cause the PSE? Is there any way or method to reduce or make the meat color condition is become normal?
Oh yes, of course. You can add some kind of red color, and then they immediately become red. That is a joke. That is a joke. Don't believe me. Don't believe me. Okay. Actually, yes. You have some way to stop this kind of stop this kind of change. How to change that? Usually is using vitamin E, because vitamin E and the selenium is antioxidation. All this kind of reaction is oxidation. Okay, became PSE, and during this kind of procedure is an oxidation. And if you can provide enough vitamin, and it's another things, okay, and you can provide enough vitamin, then they will get rid of the lactic acid and pyruvate acid. Both lactic acid and pyruvate acid will gone. And once the pyruvate acid and lactic acid gone, and then the pH will not drop down. pH will not drop down, then the PSE problem is solved. And vitamin E is the same. Okay, so many companies nowadays, they try to using iron. They say that because iron is a red cell, important hemoglobin, important element. So they add the iron. That is no use at all. 100% no use at all. Okay, the only way is using vitamin E or selenium if try to prevent in the meat. But if you try to prevent in advance, you should be consider all this kind of vitamin. Can you get my talking?
Yes, thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments or suggestions? Okay, so Suping.
Okay, my question is about also for the extrusion, because I remember that Dr. Hsia also said that the extrusion can reduce the mycotoxin content. So what's the mechanism on it?
Okay. Can you see my slide?
夏博你要分享哦。
哦，分享，糟糕了，我一下来这里我就死定了。
那个框框里面有一个箭头是分享，然后按了之后，你可以选取整个画面。
OK。你介不介意我用中文讲一下 ？Okay, I use English because you know, under this kind of high temperature, extrusion is a very high temperature and high pressure, and then immediately can cause some kind of Maynard reaction. Maynard reaction is this kind of mycotoxin link with glucose. Okay, and once they link with glucose, and then this kind of mycotoxin will dysfunction. 懂那个意思吗？如果在高压高温的情况之下，你压下去的时候，你又加了葡萄糖，一点点的葡萄糖。其实我们有做过这个实验，然后呢，这个葡萄糖呢就会跟举个例子来讲，phenolnosin 跟 phenolnosin 就变成梅纳反应，一变成梅纳反应以后，这个东西就被结合起来了，它就没有功能了，那这时候它就出局了，就变成这样子。Can you understand?
It can be work for whole kind of the mycotoxin or only the maybe the.
I think can working for whole kind of mycotoxin, but one thing is very important. If you have too many mycotoxin, then it's no use. Okay, because you are not add any glucose, and then it's also no use. Occasionally, you can have some kind of maybe have some kind of function, because starch can become glucose, but that is not enough. So you have to with extrusion with glucose, then you can reduce this kind of mycotoxin. Experiment only doing this, but according to the principle, they can working with all this kind of mycotoxin combined with these things.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for Johanna.
Yes.
Okay, your turn, please.
All right, thank you. My question is also on this extrusion method. Back at home, from where I came from in Nigeria, a process like extrusion is actually normally done at a company level or industrial level. For small-scale farmers, normally they use things like toasting to really destroy some of these allergic factors like anti-nutritional factors. So I just want Prof to throw more light on that. If you use toasting, will you get a result that is close to extrusion in terms of addressing the allergic factors in feed, such as soybean?
Okay. Basically speaking, have two kind of things influence on the piglet diarrhea or chicken's diarrhea problem. One kind of thing is called anti-nutrition factors. Okay, one kind of things is called anti-nutrition factors, and this kind of anti-nutrition factors, for example, they are anti-chymotrypsin inhibitor.
Yes.
Okay, and then they will cause their diarrhea. But this is not the important one anymore, because people is using only heat, just like using toasting, and then they can destroy any kind of increased temperature. They will destroy this kind of anti-nutrition factors. Don't forget, this kind of anti-nutrition factor is one kind of very simple factors, so they can easily to destroy it by the high temperature only, no need high pressure. But allergy factor is totally different things. If you understand the amino acid, you can see one of the not major amino acid is called glycine, and if you have glycine and conglycine, and then you will find that this is really allergy factor. They have sulfate this kind of function, and this is exists in the whole soybean, in the whole flour. Okay, some people can against this kind of flours allergy factors, but most piglets cannot against this allergy factors in soybean. That's why in the old time we using this kind of toasting method, and we can reduce the bacteria diarrhea. But unfortunately, this kind of reduced bacteria diarrhea still happen. So people are finally suspect why this kind of diarrhea still exists, and then later they know this is not due to the anti-nutrition factor. Remember, anti-nutrition factor and the allergy factor. This is a totally two different things. Okay, anti-nutrition factor is trypsin inhibitor mainly, and anti-allergy factor and allergy factor is exist in the protein. And once you exist in the protein, and then things become complicated, because all this kind of ingredient have and all kind of the protein, and this protein, if they contain this kind of amino acid, and then you will get in trouble. Can you catch what I mean?
Yes, Prof. I
Thank
got
you.
what you mean. Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That is why many companies try to use fermentation method. Okay. One of the company in Taiwan actually say export a lot of this kind of extrusion. Okay, he learned from our research, and sorry says that we didn't get any profit. But I'm really glad that he learned all these things. He's selling all these kind of things to the whole world. Okay, and many company also selling this kind of fermentation soybean. But fermentation soybean, to be honest, say is more not stable. Okay, to be very honest, say it's not too very stable due to two factors I said before. First one, can you destroy all these kind of allergy factors if you do not have enough this kind of microorganism, for example, probiotic? And another thing is, if your particle size is big, and actually most of the soybean, the particle size is very big compared with extrusion, because extrusion is almost destroyed your cell wall. But so the bacteria, this kind of probiotic can destroy the cell wall. But if your particle size is small, but the inside of the particle size, the content of allergy factor, you cannot destroy. Can you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. This method you see from the slide, this method is a simple method. Okay. But if you want to produce more better one, you can produce more beautiful shape. Okay, so you can install some kind of things on the front of this part, and then they can become very beautiful color, very beautiful shape. For example, they are using this extrusion to make a fish pellets. The fish pellets is make everything goes inside of the into make feeds, make extrusion. It's not just like a pig's feed. Pig feed is and chicken's feed is only soybean go into here, but the fish one is different. They put all these feed formula things into this extrusion, and then they can produce the very small pellet or even big pellet and provide for different kind of fish. Okay, Siba fish and the shrimp, this kind of things. They eat very small particle, and you can using this kind of extrusion to make it. Okay, and then many people say they will destroy the nutrition, but the fish people, they don't care. Because why they don't care? Because the fish feeds, the cost, the price of fish feeds is really very high, so they can get a lot of very higher profit, you know. So they actually add sometimes double or triple of the vitamin or minerals, especially vitamin. So they don't, they can get the even get the same results as they do not go through the extrusion. Can you catch what I mean? Oh,
yes, Prof.
Thank you. You can understand my Chinglish.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Any more questions? Chet, today I didn't hear your voice. Chet. No.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. One of your slides, you said about low critical temperature and high critical temperature, right? And my curiosity is about how it can relate with like different region of the world. Sometimes like
Excuse me, Chet.
yeah.
Maybe you have some your voice or microphone.
Maybe let me try from my
Okay,
laptop.
okay.
Now it's okay.
Yes, okay now.
Okay, thank you. Because my laptop camera is not working, so I'm using the from cell phone and notebook. So my question is about the low critical temperature and high critical temperature. Like sometimes in the different region of the world, the temperature is different, right? So is that really effect on those temperature, lower critical and the higher critical temperature?
100% yes. 100% yes. You can see here's a low critical temperature, high critical temperature is here. And here's a if you eat, provide them food, and they are low critical temperature and high critical temperature is here. If you reduce their food intake, the high to critical temperature and the low critical temperature is here. And you always will get trouble. So why is it people ask me, what kind of temperature is the best one? I only can say a range. And then people say, you are not a scientific people. You cannot answer my question. I said, yes, I can answer your question, but it depends on the food intake. Okay. And why is the critical temperature sometimes will influence? Because the most serious influence is lower or higher critical temperature, your feed efficiency must be bad. Anyway, because lower critical temperature, you need to spend energy for maintaining your body temperature here. And higher critical temperature, you need to spend energy to despite the heat. So both of them, you will spend more heat on maintaining your body temperature. And if you spend the energy to maintain your body temperature, then your feed will waste a little bit here, and the feed waste a little bit here. But here, the waste will be more, and here, the waste of the feed will be more. So higher and lower than the critical temperature, lower or higher critical temperature, you will reduce your feed efficiency. And of course, in some case, you influence on your weight gain or feed intake. That is another thing. Can you catch what I mean?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more question from Thai student?
So I have a little bit question, Professor. So you talk about disinfectant for potty and pig, right? But I'm wondering about for the Liang system, which type of this disinfectant are preferred for the Liang system?
Okay, good question. Do you know, my answer is, please don't adopt any kind of free-range system. I understand the animal welfare people or some other people were against me, but I still will say, don't adopt any kind of free-range system. Because once you're using the free-range system, you cannot using disinfectant. Not easy. And you maybe can using all in, all out system. Yes. You will stop the disease disinfect to the next batch of the animals. But you still will get the disease problem for this batch of the animals. And many people say free range is animal welfare considered. Many people say the free range animal will be taste more better. From my point of view, if you're using free range system, you will get a mosquito, you will get a fly, and you will get all this kind of parasite. And then how do you prevent them? Good example is coccidius. Good example is white comb disease. So if you ask me whether I will buy this kind of free range chicken or free range pigs, I will say no. Why I will say no? Because if they have disease, they have to use drug. For example, coccidius drug. They have no choice. Yesterday, I have one of my students. He came to me and he said, how to prevent coccidius in the no cage layer system. And he's a very big no cage system. And I said, no way. And if you have a coccidius, you still need to using drug. And this is not only for coccidius only. Okay, another kind of bacteria also can cause you big trouble for the chicken or for the pigs. So until now, I still cannot think is the best way to stop the disease problem in chicken or in pigs. Okay, if you do not use the if you're using disinfectant, you still cannot solve problem because disinfectant cannot spray on the grass line. Okay, so this is a big problem, but most animal welfare people don't discuss this part. Sorry, I am also animal welfare people, but I try to discuss with them, but they refuse. Okay, they think that they want a totally freedom. Okay, this is a big trouble. Just like in China and in Taiwan, all the students can using cell phone. All the students can using cell phone. But in France, they cannot using cell phone at all. They totally banned the cell phone for the young student. And can we ban this kind of free range system? If one day we can stop the disease problem, then we can ban. It's not for disease. It's not for disease. I should repeat it again. It's for once have disease happen, you have to add a drug. And this kind of drug residual will go into human's body. This is more dangerous than the coccidius or colostrum. Yes, colostrum. This kind of disease. Can you understand my talking?
Yes, thank you.
You are Miss?
Me.
Me.
Yeah.
Okay, you are me. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. I think it's the time for finish because last week we have a holiday. So maybe today we spend over the time. Usually we spend from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. or 9:30 p.m. in Taiwan time. Okay. So thank you very much everyone to join our seminar tonight. And before we leave, maybe we will take a group photo first, right, Miss Lee?
Small? Okay. Please show your face. 伟俊，你还在吗？你不是说开学就要参加了？
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
I was eating my dinner. I think
okay.
it was unpolite to open my camera
Oh,
while
okay,
everybody
okay,
seminar and I'm eating my dinner.
No problem. We can share a dinner with you.
And I don't have any question yet because too many nouns that I don't understand. I need to go back there and search for their Chinese.
Okay. Wei Jun is an undergraduate student. He just interested in our seminar, so he joined us.
Thank you.
No, it's okay. Okay. They said, Miss Lee said yes, it's okay now. And where is our chairperson?
Yes. Next week we will follow the schedule, or we have a new schedule coming. Everyone, if you are interested to give a presentation, you can send message to Miss Lee.
Miss
And
Lee,
then
do you want to provide them email address?
Miss Lee or Su Ping will help us to collect.
奇怪，我怎么在画面上看不到 Net 的照片？哦，看到了，看到了。
我在这里。
哦 ，OK。好了吗
Okay, Miss Lee left her email in chat. Okay, you can check before leaving.
You know, if many people will join us, and then all the people were not so tired to prepare the seminar. Okay, because one term for those people, so many people, you will find that one term is quite a long time. So if only have 4 or 5 student people, and then we need to turn around just like crazy. You can see the chat is smiling because he's so okay. Bye bye, Professor.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Good night.
Professor
Thank you.
Wantamas, Professor
Thank you,
Lo.
Dr. Hsia. Thank you, Professor Lo.
Thank you, Professor, and all the other people. Thank you very much. Thank you for your coming. Bye.
See you next week.
See you.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello. So. Professor, he will join later.
Maybe he forgot. Let me remind him again.
Kill wait. Okay.
Okay.
Professor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I already returned. Sorry. Too old to remember.
It's okay. My name is Kelso Clark, and I am from the Caribbean island of St. Kitts and Nevis. I am a first-year master student at DTIC, and Mr. Chet gave me your contact information to talk to you about a possible topic and the chance of probably you being my advisor or some advice that you can give to me. So I would like to dialogue with you in that regard.
Okay. I'm glad to do that, but you remember one thing, you needed to working on the field too, because experiment is always on the field.
Yes, I know.
Because you can ask Chet. Chet is already working with us for a while. Okay. Sometimes it's a little bit tired job. For example, the lady now still in the screen. She's in charge about our laboratory work, and she's a PhD student, but it's a long time. I think she's working for us more than 10 to 12 years. Okay. No, she's still very young. I'm not try to keep his secret. Okay. By the way, you think about which kind of animal you have to do, because in your country you come from say again.
St. Kitts and Nevis.
Center.
Saint Kitts and Nevis.
And Nevis. And Nevis.
Sankoloso tofu.
Oh, Sankoloso tofu. Oh, I know that. If you speak Chinese, sorry, says that my English is so bad.
It's okay.
Sankoloso tofu, I know, because I have a very close friend working in the St. Vincent and Sankoloso tofu. Yes. Okay, 好啊。What kind of animal you are very more popular in your country? Poultry?
Poultry and small ruminants.
Small ruminants. What kind of small ruminants?
Goat and sheep.
Goat and sheep. And how many of them? Goat and sheep.
We have about 10,000 goat and sheep on the island.
Sheep. Okay, okay. Most of them is free range.
Yes.
Okay. How about the chicken? Chicken, you have chicken farms?
Yes, we have chicken farms. We have 14 farmers, and we have approximately 12,000 layers.
Okay. So in this case, I suggest
layers.
I suggest that you, for your master degree, I suggest you start from the poultry. Okay. And if you want further, that is another business. Is that okay? Because if you start from the poultry and then make you more easy to go back home to do your work. Can we?
Yes, I agree. I have an idea and I would like to pitch the idea to you.
Okay.
I have been.
We can meet next week. Next week.
Oh, next week when?
Because next Saturday we have a class. Is that right, Su? Su?
I think it's this Saturday.
Saturday we will have a class. Did you select our course?
No.
You do you have a select a course at the moment?
Could you please repeat that?
Okay. Do you select course?
No.
Okay. So I suggest that you select our course, and then make you have a basic knowledge in this area.
Okay.
One is growth. This is very, very, very important for all kind of people. It's not only for you. It's for any poultry, pigs, beef, cattle, goat, sheep, all kind of people. Okay, this is the first one, and the second one is ruminant nutrition. And you can, if you want to join us, you can join this one. Why I ask you to join the ruminant nutrition? Because I always have my own student try to build up their future. Because if you can understand ruminant nutrition, even you don't working in this area, and if one day you become the president of St. Kelly's Tofu, and then you still can say, I know this part. Can you understand what I mean? Because I already met many people, if they can learn all these kind of things, and they can easily do dealing with their own people.
Okay.
Is that okay?
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Discuss with Chet, because Chet have choose this both course. Okay. Do you know Chet? Did you have time to chat with Chet? Because Chet is very busy at the moment.
Yes. Yes, I can chat with Chet.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Don't worry about the course. Course itself is just try to improve your whole knowledge in this area. Don't worry about that. Usually it's no big trouble, but just I hope my student can understand all these kind of things. I chose this is by very serious choose this subject. It's not say just by chance to give you this subject.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
How do I call you, Clarky?
My name is Kaiso.
Kaiso, but what is usually people call you?
Kelso.
Kelso. Oh, okay. Kelso. Okay. So when you arrived Taiwan?
I've been here for 1 year.
Oh, so you already been here 1 year. So during this year, who is your supervisor?
I don't have any as yet.
Okay. So working with us.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.
It's okay.
Thank you. Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.你有什么话要跟我讲吗？